Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the cards that have been previewed from the Magic the Gathering and Final Fantasy collaboration. I released a video earlier showing the Commander decks. IGN put out like an article and an interview describing why they chose what they did and what the Commander decks actually had, their themes, their colors, all that stuff. And I also took some time to learn a little bit more about the colors because Magic the Gathering was never the card game that I chose when I was younger. I played Pokemon in the Pokemon League at my local Toys R Us, and I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Amongst my friends at a local card shop. Never really got into Magic the Gathering, so I'm not exactly coming into this as somebody with a lot of knowledge on that front. But I do know Final Fantasy, and so I'm curious to see what they have posted, because now we have a preview of a whole lot more cards. Now, obviously, I'm not necessarily going to be looking at these cards from a competitive standpoint in any sort of format for Magic the Gathering. I'm going to be looking at the artwork, and I'm going to be looking at thematically how much it represents the Final Fantasy theme that said card might actually be going through. I have been desperately trying to avoid the cards on social media. I've definitely seen a handful so far, and now I just want to get into this. I went to the gym, came home like, I gotta do this. I gotta do this right now. So we have the site open. There are also two videos. There's one on YouTube, and I think there's one on TikTok. The TikTok one, I think, is just going over the fact that Yoshitaka Amano is doing some of the artwork. And then the other one, I was told, just previews these cards. So it was like, well, why watch that when I can just look at the cards? So here we are, Magic the Gathering, Final Fantasy, release date June 13th. Now, I am actually going to be doing a sponsored bit of card openings, or at least that's currently the plan. There's a card shop, like a mom and pop shop, that actually does online retail as well. And they asked me, if they gave me some cards, if, they could sponsor, a video and like opening packs. And I said, absolutely, because I want to open these. I want to collect these. I'm big on opening packs. I might even try to find some locally so I can open some more, because I'm sure they're going to be sold out online. For like, the scalpers probably went nuts. The business owners probably went nuts. This is probably all gone by the time I'm getting to this video. Well, at least for the initial batch. But yeah, June 13th. So I will be doing some card openings on June 13th. If anyone else wants to send me any, let me know. I've already got one sponsor, but just for the sake of opening packs, I wouldn't say no to more. The entire Final Fantasy saga is here. The beloved Final Fantasy RPG series, 16 mainline games of unforgettable characters, items, and moments are now here in Magic the Gathering. Cast powerful spells, call upon classic summons, and even visit your favorite locations on the back of a chocobo. Countless elements from the games are here for you to weave together for your own story. So, these artworks we actually saw months ago when it was initially previewed. We could go over them again, but we don't really have any card effects. And since I've already looked at this artwork, I've already commented on this artwork, I don't really see much a need to do so again. However, I can already see the names of the Commander cards that we were going over earlier. So you can see here, we already went over these cards in my other video, Exploring Magic's most popular format, Commander, with characters from the Final Fantasy series. It won't let me scroll over to the... Oh, there we go. I just have to drag it. I was looking for like a scroll at the bottom because I'm like super zoomed in so we can actually read the cards, so that you all can actually read the cards. Like I said, we went over all of these, had to learn about all the different colors. The themes on these are pretty interesting, to say the least. So I'm curious to see what the other cards are like. So, we have some here, the finest cards for play and display. Like I said, a lot of Final Fantasy fans aren't necessarily going to be Magic the Gathering players, but they love art and they love collectibles. So, we can see some classic artwork here. First of all, we have a Jumbo Cactuar on the left. 10,000 needles. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9999. Plus 0 until the end of this. So, it does 10,000. Wow. Wait, whenever it attacks? So it doesn't have to attack a creature. Wait, so am I bugging? Or can you just, if you get directly to the opponent, or if there's a card that could combo this with like Tramp, I'd assume that card wouldn't be allowed in Command. I mean, obviously I'm coming from, again, I'm not knowledgeable, but I know that the game doesn't have more than 10,000 health. I know you don't have that much health, so yeah, that's pretty funny. I like how it's another. I won 7 too. Like 7 is a pretty decent defense line. Looks like it's 5 mana. It's only 5 mana. All right, that's That's wild. Okay. The Dragon of Mount Gold. Very surprised to see the Ancient Copper Dragon showing up on this list. Creature, Elder Dragon. Flying. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, roll a d20. You create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. So that already sounds like something that goes along with the Cloud deck. Again, I did some research, so I saw that developing treasure tokens is very much going to be one of Cloud's major things. I think it was for Fire. It was treasure tokens. I've already forgotten. Again, I'm gonna have to drill it into my head over and over again. I should have pulled it up on my phone before I even started. But that's pretty interesting. Roll a d20. Oh man. So one thing is the keyword for flying. I had a feeling about it yesterday, but I should confirm what flying actually does. It's an evergreen evasion ability that makes creatures without flying unable to block creatures with flying. Okay, that's pretty interesting. It has been in Magic since the original alpha set. Okay. Number equal to the result. So you could generate 20 treasure tokens. That's nuts. Yuffie, we have her original artwork here as well. Commander Ninjutsu. Looks like it taps 1 water, 1 black, assuming I'm reading it right. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. That's a pretty interesting effect. That's definitely not something I would have expected from Yuffie. So it allows, it's effectively a draw 1 from your library. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is just a fancy name for your deck. I know there's the library, the graveyard, and exiling. Unless I'm mistaken, library is that. Unless library is like a separate like side deck. So that's my understanding. Lose life equal to that card's mana value. Man, if you're ahead and you play, you could really burn. I wonder if there's like a card combo for you to like place a card on the top of your deck that's like got a really high mana value to then combo with something like this and then force a giant burn. Like if you're up on your opponent and they're within a certain range. I wonder. That's interesting. And we've got Cecil here as well, or Cecil, however you prefer. Dark Knight version. He has Death Touch. So I'm assuming Death Touch, if they attack a creature, instantly kills them regardless of battle step. Death Touch is a keyword, allows a creature to destroy another creature with any amount of damage. Yeah, so even if you were to technically lose, you would just instantly destroy it. Darkness, I'd assume this costs health. Whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Yeah, I figured as much. Then, if your life total is less than or equal to half of your starting life total, untap Cecil and transform it. So it sounds like you have to try to kind of play this when you're under half, because transform it, I'd assume that very specifically turns him into Paladin Cecil, which, given that there's a flip button here, yeah! Now he has life link. I would assume that then brings you back. Like, lifelink is a keyword introduced in Future Sight. Damage dealt by a source with lifelink causes that source's controller to gain life. Yeah, so while you're giving life initially, Paladin Cecil will then give you life back if you manage to get the play. Protect. Whenever Cecil attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible until the end of the turn. So I'd assume very specifically that indestructible is, well, indestructible. I feel as though that's pretty solid, but maybe it doesn't work exactly as I'm thinking. Evergreen keyword ability, indestructible permanents cannot be destroyed by rules or effects. Okay, but it sounds like they can be killed by battle. It just allows a card to ignore effects that say destroy and remain on the battlefield. That's a nice little counter. I kind of like that. Okay, so yeah, already some pretty interesting cards. Really like the artwork on these ones in particular, the Cecil. I'm not sure where those are from. I don't know if those are original for this, but I feel like those come from someplace. Okay, we have Emmett Selk's effect here, and we have a see more cards button on the left. Cast spells, draw swords, and embark on a new journey with the characters from Final Fantasy. It's time to shape your Magic story. This is my story. All right. Okay, so Emmett Selk, Unsundered, has Vigilance. Now, let me remind, I think I remember what Vigilance is. I think it's like something that allows you to attack a creature without tapping. Okay, that's good. Whenever Emmett Selk enters or attacks, draw a card and discard a card. There are, I'd assume, some decks where just putting a card in the graveyard achieves some sort of effect. So the fact that he allows you to kind of dig through your deck and potentially set up your hand is a pretty interesting angle to go with it. I noticed the 6/6. Let me just read it. At the beginning of your upkeep, hold on, I assume that's a phase. Upkeep MTG. I'd assume that's like a phase, like start phase, end phase, etc. Yeah. Upkeep step is the second step of the beginning phase. At the beginning of the upkeep, any abilities that trigger either during the untap step. So there's untap step, upkeep step, draw step. All part of the beginning phase. So when you first start the actual turn. Okay. Beginning phase, part of the turn. Where is it? Beginning phase. I need the untap step. Upkeep, 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 scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Don't mind me, learning as we go. Upkeep step is the second step of the beginning phase. At the beginning of the upkeep step, any abilities that trigger either during the untap step or at the beginning of the upkeep go on the stack. So the stack is effectively like effects like stack on top of each other, and then they resolve in the opposite order. So like whatever's on the top of the stack is going to resolve first, and the second, third. So the idea is to play around the stack when you're trying to counter certain abilities. So if you add something to the stack that negates something else, then you have the priority on the stack. However, at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14, get it? Final Fantasy 14. 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmet Salk and assume to Hades. Yes, Hades, Sorcerer of Eld. Also has Vigilance, Echo of the Lost. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. That's so cool. That's really thematically good for Hades in particular. If a card or token would be put in your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So I don't know how much... for any unfamiliar, although you all probably know better than I do, exiling is very similar to banishing in Yu-Gi-Oh, for example. So the graveyard becomes a hand. It sounds like anything, as long as you can afford the mana cost in the graveyard, can be played. But anything that would enter the graveyard effectively is blocked off and has to go into exile. So I don't know if you would try to avoid that, or if you would play cards that can benefit from the exile. I just don't know how much Magic can actually play things from exile, like bring things back that are exiled. I don't know how common that is. So. But I like that. I really like the Emmet Salk card. That's really nice. Now I understand why the 6/6 is here, because it's describing what this is when it transforms. We have Sin flying. Whenever Sin enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. I'd assume at random. How do you... so in Magic, I'd assume that at random is... you would shuffle your graveyard and like your opponent would like just pick a card from it. I would assume that's how random works. Because otherwise, it's not like you can look at it and be like, that one. Just look away. Then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. Interesting. So so essentially you're creating Sin Spawn. That's the theme that's going on here. I really like that. Exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random, then create a tapped token that is a copy of that card. I really like that. Again, the graveyard play from some of this stuff. So this also puts things into exile from the grave. So we've already got two kind of there's cards that are messing around with the graveyard a lot, which, to be fair, I'm used to that. Again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is probably the one game I have some knowledge of. I'm also going to move myself to the bottom left, so this is easier. My camera's like half cut off anyway. I didn't even like try to do it. I just started recording. And I really like that. I always like when the graveyard, I like when all the different elements on the field feel more like they're constantly part of play than like they're just kind of separated from everything, right? Like with where everything is, I mean, that's kind of key to just a lot of interactive gameplay. It's also a 7/7, so... Shiva. This is Final Fantasy. Is that Final Fantasy? Yeah, it's Final Fantasy X Shiva. Yeah, I can tell with all the braids. Yeah. As this saga enters, and after your draw step, add a lore counter. Sacrifice after 3. So we're gonna have to look this up. Saga MTG. What is a saga? A saga is an enchantment type introduced in Dominaria. Each saga tells the story of a key event from the past as it unfolds. Oh, this is such a good Final Fantasy thing. Like, just reading that as a game mechanic, any Final Fantasy fan can instantly be like, oh, there's a lot of room for stuff like that in Final Fantasy. Shiva's an interesting one, though. Each separate step in the story is called a chapter and is marked by a Roman numeral. Saga cards are historic. So, basically, Shiva needs to, it seems like, survive, effectively will stay on the field for as long as 3 turns. So, like, you'll draw so you sacrifice after 3. So I'd assume that you would sacrifice the card after your draw step that would take you to 4. I don't know if it would be at the end of the 3rd turn. It's definitely described here, but like I'm just going off the base description. So when you're in Sagas 1 and 2, you have Heavenly Strike. Tap the target creature an opponent controls. Put a stun counter on it. If a permanent with a stun counter would become untapped, remove 1 from it instead. Okay, so that's really good. And Diamond Dust, draw a card for each tapped creature your opponent controls. So on your own, in theory, you would want at least the 2 targets tapped from Heavenly Strike, assuming that Shiva can actually stay on the field long enough to do all of this stuff. And I don't know how easy that is to do. Easy or hard that is to do. As a 4/5, 3 mana 4/5, I assume that's kind of okay since you get to Shiva on a relatively early turn if you get the draw. And then I'd assume that also if they have any tapped cards that obviously Shiva didn't tap, but they're tapped on their side of the field, that it would still manage that. So definitely one of the less, like, I think the whole Saga thing is really cool. But Shiva herself, I'm not, like, wild about this card. But maybe that's just me. Saz's Chocobo, creature, bird, landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It's a 0. I think it's a 0 mana 0/1, but I don't know how frequently you're really putting lands. Like I wonder if any of the decks like really churn through lands, because yeah, if you get like 1 and it becomes a 0 mana 1/2. I mean, I guess a 0 mana 0/1 you could do worse than that, but I guess I don't have a grasp on the value of a 0 mana 0/1 that gets +1/+1 for a land. That's one of those things that without a real understanding, I can't even begin to evaluate that. Then, before we click on the see more cards, we have play boosters, which we know have cards from like all 16 Final Fantasies. We have traditional foils, full art lands cards from some of the Visionary Minds. So there we have the boosters. We have the collector boost. Oh god, dude. Now I see why everyone says they put like thousands of dollars away. Because do you want to be the guy who just has the booster cards? Or do you want to be the guy that's got the collector booster cards? Oh, Jesus, my dudes. Come on. The commander decks, which we went over. The collector's commander decks. The bundles and the gift bundles. Oh, man. So, the gift bundles also released a little later. Call forth classic summons, cast powerful spells. This bundle includes an oversized spin down life counter and a whole nest of Final Fantasy play boosters and more. And then, oh, look at that. The Ifrit and Bahamut art that's on that. Oh, I know it's kind of hard to see. Well, hold on. Maybe I can do this. Let's do this. Yeah, look at that. It's got the dice in there, too. Includes collector's boosters. Oh. Artwork, ladies and gentlemen, the artwork. Pre-release packs answer the call to crystal with 6 play boosters, 1 traditional foil rare mythic with a year stamp and a spin down life counter. Each booster has 14 randomly inserted game cards. Interesting. And then finally the starter kit face off with 2. Yeah, they have this Cloud and Sephiroth starter kit, it looks like. So those are all really cool. How do you decide what you want? We've also seen this artwork before, so that's just like the information thing. All right, let's click see more cards, because we're gonna be here a while. Okay, let me hold on. Let me look at the. All right, it looks like I should move myself over here and move this slightly over more. Let me bring it down a little bit. All right, that should be fine. Side quests, catch a fish. It's Noctis fishing. Sidequest, that's pretty cool. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you put a card into your hand this way, create a food token and wait, so it's like you caught a fish, right? And then transform the enchantment into a cooking campsite. Add a light. I think that's, yeah. Add a light mana. I want to know what that round arrow is. It probably designates like a turn order of some kind. Like when it happens. Oh, it could even just be no. I think it's just. Oh, I think it's saying on transform, do that. No, because then it's here too. Well, let's see. What does a curved arrow mean, MTG? A curved arrow is part of the tap symbol, which indicates a card needs to be tapped. Oh, is that what I'm looking at here? Well, the example that I have here did not help me in any capacity. Involves tapping the card as part of the cost. Okay. So it just means that on tap, it will do those things. And it's a land, also, I just noticed. Sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, activate only as a sorcery. So I assume that just means it goes out at sorcery speed. I think that's specifically the designation that happens here. There's different speeds to cards, so yeah, sorcery, okay. Again, I don't really know how to judge that against sacrificing an artifact to just get a +1/+1. A +1 on each creature you control. So I guess if you had, something that really mobs creatures onto the field, then the campsite might actually be good if you sacrifice 1 or 2 artifacts and you go for a big push. Especially if you have any sort of board wipe or something like that. That might be kind of what the intention is there. But again, without much knowledge, it's kind of hard to evaluate. Stiltskin, Moogle Merchant, Life Link. Does that mean so that's not what I looked at earlier, right? Life Link. That's not what Cecil had, was it? Allows a player to gain life on a creature. Oh, no, it was. Yeah, it was lifelink. It was the same thing. When I think lifelink, I think one of us takes damage, the other one does. But it's specifically healing. Let's see. 2 on tap. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control if they do draw a card. So you're giving them a creature you control. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control in order to draw a card. So my question becomes, are there cards that you can have on your side of the field that you want to get onto your opponent's side of the field? Like something that has a negative effect, like -1/-1 to all other creatures you control, or if this card changes control between players, has some sort of negative effect. Those are the kind of things I'd be looking for. Seeing that particular type of effect. The question, although you're giving your opponent a card with lifelink, so you probably want to clear this because you don't. I mean, it's only a 1/2, so it's not anything crazy. But and I think it's a 0 mana 1/2 to boot. Although you do have this here, so I guess you need the 2 mana to tap. So yeah, again, I'm still trying to fully understand all that. There'll be plenty of people correcting me in the comment section, and that's good because I'm gonna need it. And then also we have the same card but with traditional artwork. It's really interesting that they're doing that. And I noticed that some of the artwork in the other one, I was like, I wonder if there's going to be different versions. Because I said that Twitter made it hard to stay away from every card. The Jumbo Cactar card, I saw the modern artwork for it on Twitter. So when I saw that old one, I was kind of confused briefly. And I was like, oh, are there just 2 different versions? This pretty much confirms it as expected. So these are some white cards. Then we have some blue cards. We saw Shiva already. Oh, and then it's just 2 different artworks. That's really cool. I like that. Yeah, I really like having 2 different artworks. It also adds to the collective. I mean, of course, it's going to make even crazier to try to collect it. And it also tells you what it's available in to boot. So it's in the play boosters, collectors boosters, pre-release pack. I mean, yeah, I'd assume it's in any of the boosters that come for this. Oh, there's that artwork. So here's the artwork we saw before, but look at this artwork over here. Hold on. Image in new tab. Look at that. Oh, man. Hold on. We got to see the Paladin version. Yeah, it's the same card. It's just... Hold on. Yeah. I want to see the... Yeah, that's a very, Magic the Gathering. This especially looks like... If you told me this wasn't Cecil, I would guess it was Cecil. I would be like, is that a Magic the Gathering version of Cecil or Cecil? Again, as you prefer. Oh, boy, a Tonberry. Oh boy. The nightmares. Okay. This creature enters tapped with a stun counter on it. That makes sense. So Tonberries usually start away from the fight, and they have to, like, walk up slowly. So I think it's emulating that. That's really cool thematically. If it would become untapped, remove a stun counter from it instead. Chef's Knife. During your turn, this creature has First Strike and Death Touch. So I'd assume First Strike means that since it's on your turn, it can... Well, actually, no. I guess I should look it up, because... It makes sense to me. And so, Evergreen that changes the rules for combat by adding an additional combat. So it goes before the standard combat step. A creature with First Strike deals combat damage before creatures without First Strike. The ability usually represents a creature's exceptional speed or skill, possession of long-range weapons such as spears, lances, or bows. The most common creature types that have First Strikes are Knight and Soldier. So if it calculates... So if I'm reading this correctly, because he has First Strike... His damage step will resolve. And because he has Death Touch, he'll instantly kill the opponent, which is very much a Tonberry thing. That I would assume because you have First Strike, you do not receive any amount of damage in return. You're not like clashing a 2-1 against like anything else and then receiving damage and kind of doing a trade. Again, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But wait, why is Cecil here? Wait. Did it... Why is he here? Are those... Oh, the one's a foil. Extended artwork. Oh, I see. This one's got the box. Like, the whole card is the artwork. I was confused why Cecil was here 3 times for a brief moment. I didn't even notice that this was a full art card. Okay. Because it's just like... For the most part, it's the same art. Yeah, so I would assume that's what Tonberry's doing, and that's kind of his thing. We saw the Dragon of Mount Golg before. That's the Jumbo Cactar card that I saw on social media. And then this is the one we saw earlier. We already checked out Saz's Chocobo earlier. And then we have some multicolored cards. So we saw Emmett Salk. We have Garland here, which we saw the the Final Fantasy 1 artwork on the front of one of the booster packs. So I'd assume it's this or his Final Fantasy 1 art. Let's see. Oh, he turns into chaos. I know he turns into chaos. This card, I haven't even read it yet, and I see the flip over, and I know he turns into chaos. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1. So what is surveilling? I would assume that means you look at the top card, or surveil 1 MTG. Surveil is a keyword that allows the player to look at a certain number of cards from the top of their library. And put them in the graveyard or back on top in any order. So by surveilling... Oh, it says right next to it. I should have just kept reading what it said. Look at the top card, and you may put it in your graveyard. So you could mill one, but you don't have to mill one. At the very least, you can assess the card. And then, oh my goodness, the cost of am I bugging, or is that just like a really high really high cost for his other ability? If you perform the other ability, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield, transform, activate only as a sorcery. So because I'm not sure how that works, I would assume, because if it's in the graveyard, I'd assume it doesn't have... I guess you need the mana, like, on field in some capacity, or needs to be, like, enough things need to be tapped. I guess I'm not sure exactly what that means. But effectively, he's got a graveyard effect. And if you activate that as a sorcery, he comes back as Chaos, of course. Has flying, and when Chaos dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Interesting. So return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield, transfer. I'd assume that you keep the transformations in your deck, and then whenever you activate a transform ability... I guess that's something I should definitely look up. Transform MTG, because without, like, obviously I'm thinking of like having an extra deck introduced. Let's see, it's a double-faced card. Oh, it's printed that way. Wait, really? So does that mean you just know where it is? And each double-faced card has a front face. This face is default. Double-faced permanents start on the battlefield with this face upward. Wait, does that... Huh? Does that mean the card in your deck, like, you can see it coming? Is that what it... Am I bugging? Is that what it means? Like, you can see, like, oh, it's coming. I can see it. That's an interesting thing. When Chaos dies, put it on the bottom of your owner's library. So, effectively, Garland... If you resurrect Garland from the graveyard and bring him back as Chaos, and then when Chaos dies, you put him back in the deck, you could effectively either mill Garland again at some point, or you could pull Garland again and get to do his other effect, and then eventually, if he goes to the graveyard again, I doubt the games last long enough to do that most of the time. But I think that's, if I'm understanding, that's what it does. We also have another Sin artwork over here. So it's a cut off a little bit. You know, I do this. Fortunately, I decided to start putting 4 cards into the thing, and I don't want to shrink this any more than I have to. So, you can see that right there. But it's the same effect as the other Sin. Oh, the Emmett Cell. Wait a minute. Oh, hey, let me guess. Not full artwork, alternate artwork. What does the alternate artwork for Hades look like? Oh, I like that. I like the original artwork way better for Emmett Selk, though, especially for Hades. Like, this is cool. It's nice to see that, but that's all there is to it. This is another full art card, extended art, as they're called. Same with the Chaos. The Chaos side looks a little better than on this, I feel. I feel like this is a better showcase of, like, a full art card. And this is another Sin full art. We have Cloud with an alternate art, it looks like. Oh, wait. During your turn. Oh, this is a completely different Cloud card. This is ex-Soldier Cloud, and this is Cloud Planet's Champion. During your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped, it has double strike and indestructible. This creature deals both first strike and regular combat damage step. Woo! Damage and effects that say destroy, don't destroy. I like that it explains it, by the way, on the card, so that way I don't feel dumb all the time. Equip abilities you activate that target Cloud costs 2 less to activate. Wow, I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb, but I feel like I like this one better than the actual, like, Commander deck version. Maybe I'm probably just dumb, but, like, I read that, and that to me is something I like a whole lot more. Sephiroth has Vigilance. Attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap. When Sephiroth enters, creatures your opponent control get -2/-2 until the end of the turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you put a +1/+1. Wow, so Sephiroth kind of just takes over the whole field. I wonder, so if you -2/-2 something that's 2 or under, I would, well, maybe it's 1 or under. Well, no, -2/-2. So if something's health goes to 0, I'd assume it dies. I wonder if Sephiroth has some sort of, if there's some sort of cards that, like, benefit from being culled by your own cards that give your other cards, like, +1/+1, because I can imagine you putting Sephiroth down, culling some of your cards. Sephiroth gets some sort of effect, like maybe it triggers, like, on going to the graveyard, equip one of your other, creature cards or whatever with, this card, or, like, give them +1. And then he is strong enough to just basically mow over everything. And he can do that, but then +1/+1, because if you cull any sort of small creature, then Sephiroth just gets his health back. So, like, they can't really afford to have, like, 0/1s. The problem is he's probably so easy to kill. I'd assume that, like, there's so many sorceries and whatnot that could just instantly take him off the field. But that's an interesting effect. It kind of goes, I was talking earlier about cards that, I was saying that you could give cards to your opponent, but I'd assume that transferring control of a card does not count as entering. I'm not looking that up right this second. I would assume it's only when played from the card or the graveyard, when it goes from not being on the field to being on the field. That's what I would assume, at the very least. We saw Cloud, we saw Terra. These are the commander cards. We went over these in the other video. Same with Tidus, Yuna's Guardian, and Ishtola, Knight's Blessed. We have the full arts of all of those here, it looks like. Well, I like the full art for Tidus in particular. And then we have the alternate arts as well. I really like the Cloud alternate art. I really like the Terra alternate art. I like the original Tidus better, but this one's good. And the Ishtola one is is a very particular style, and I get it. What the heck are these then? Wait, oh, these are Surge foil versions of the Commander decks now. These are from the collector's versions, yeah, I'd assume. And then Yuffie's just chilling here at the bottom. All right. We have a food artifact. 2 mana, on tap, sacrifice this token, you gain 3 life. Just food. Final Fantasy 15 food. And those looks like all the cards that they have previewed so far. So there are some cards that I feel like really exemplify the card, like the Cactar and the Tonberry especially, to me, more exemplify like the Final Fantasy-ish feel and what they're going for than most other things. Sagas as well, really good Final Fantasy adjacent style of mechanic. So I'm really excited to see what other sagas they have and how they line up. And overall, the cards seem pretty interesting. Now, again, I would assume a lot of these are similar to existing Magic the Gathering cards. That seems to be what's implied when they say that some of these are kind of reprints of existing cards. But that's why these cards that like really feel thematic, like Tonberry and Jumbo Cactar, they really stand out because I can't imagine anything even remotely similar to the Jumbo Cactar exists. And then obviously the Saga with Shiva is really cool, but that wasn't my favorite card by far. And then there's just some interesting gameplay elements between some of these different cards. Again, like being able to effectively hand over a permanent that you control, but to draw a card, and that I really want to see what other cards would combo with that. So I'll probably have to do some research on that in my own time, or wait till they reveal more cards ahead of the June 13th release. But man, this stuff's really cool. I love card games, man. It's just so hard because I don't want to play the digital card games, and I really like opening packs, but I know that if I start opening packs, I have an addictive personality. So I kind of like there's a little nervous about getting those packs for the sponsorship from that store. And by the way, as soon as I have information about that store having their own pre-orders or whatnot, having their own stock, then I'll start including links to that way ahead of the June 13 release, because I know that because they do online retail as well. So, you know, of course, I want to make sure that I do good by them because they're going to be sending me some cool stuff. But man, this is my wallet. Like seeing all like the full art versions and the alternate art versions and seeing all there's boosters and command. Oh my god, dude, Final Fantasy set is gonna be wild. I want to know what the Magic the Gathering people think. Somebody said I should like hit up CGB and be like, yo, can you just come on like a State of the Realm real quick and like explain some of this shit to me and like go over like some of the different strategies. Maybe once it comes out, especially, I could do something like that when I have better knowledge base, because I'll probably have a better knowledge base by then. I definitely have to start watching some more TCG YouTube videos to get to acclimated with all of this stuff. But yeah, that is our first, I guess now it's our second look. The Commander deck thing was the first look. But these are a look at some of the cards that are going to be coming, and very few of them, I imagine, given that we know there's cards across all 16 games. And we barely scratched the surface, given that half of the cards they're showing off are alternate artworks, full art, surge foil. Like, look at this. It's like the same card like 4 times. But, like, come on. It's so many versions. Oh, that's going to be a wrap. I'm excited for this. Definitely scared and excited at the same time. Let me know what you think in the comments section of the video below. Feel free to make any corrections to my misunderstandings. That's always welcome. I don't have the knowledge base. So if you're smarter than me, be smarter than me, which is honestly pretty easy in most aspects of life. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Until then, take care.